everyone, my name is Siri Kleisebon, and my group and I are here to persuade others on why we should legalize marijuana. What is your opinion on marijuana? Marijuana has been seen as a dangerous drug. It's heard to be addictive, how it kills our brain cells, and how it even causes cancer. Many people's view of marijuana are uneducated and negative. I hope this presentation informs everyone about the effects of marijuana, and hopefully it changes your view. Throughout our life, we've heard different stories about marijuana and the effects it has on our body. Some of our friends may have experienced the use of marijuana. The use and sale of marijuana has a variety of benefits, both as recreational substance and a medicinal one. With the legalization and subsequent taxation of marijuana, marijuana could also have substantial economic benefits. There are some medicinal benefits, economic benefits, and social benefits. Let's start off by talking about the medical benefits of legalizing marijuana as we go on to the next slide. Mental health is a person's condition regarding their physiological and emotional well-being. Therefore, it has been a problem throughout the United States. There have been studies on anxiety, depression, bipolar disorders, and Alzheimer's disease. Medical marijuana is becoming more and more common. Therefore, it could help treat mental health issues. Anxiety is a feeling of worry, nervousness, or uneasiness, typically about an imminent event or something with an uncertainty of an outcome. Depression is a feeling of severe despondency and dejection. Medical marijuana has been used for centuries to treat depression and other medical conditions. More than 400 years ago, marijuana was used to treat depression in India and has since been studied and analyzed to determine the medical benefits. When taking a close look at medical studies and results of medical marijuana used to treat anxiety, it's evident that the chemical makeup, specifically the presence of CBD or cannabidiol, is the main ingredient to treat anxiety from Bergashami 2011. CBD is a cannabis compound that has found to have significant benefits for people with anxiety. CBD can be treated for patients seeking anti-inflammatory, anti-pain, anti-anxiety, or anti-spasm effects. CBD does not make people feel stoned or high and actually counteracts the anxiety-driven tendencies of THC from Bergashi 2011. Many with a variety of anxiety disorders claim to have relieved from their symptoms of anxiety with the use of medical marijuana. Therefore, anxiety and depression are usually paired together. Please follow along with me onto the next slide about bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder is a mental disorder marked by alternating periods of elation and depression. In another study published in 2012 by researchers at Zucker Hillside Hospital in New York, regular marijuana use was linked to higher levels of action, processing speed, and memory among the 200 bipolar patients that the research followed over a 9-year span from Braga. One of these patients, a 47-year-old woman, found marijuana to be more effective than other drugs controlling her maniac episodes, also found from Braga. In another case, the husband of a bipolar sufferer told of numerous ways that marijuana seemed to help his wife in dealing with the disorder. For example, my wife functions much better when she uses marijuana. When she is hypomaniac, it relaxes her, helps her sleep, and slows her speech down. When she is depressed and would otherwise lie in bed all day, the marijuana makes her feel more active and alive. But it doesn't always keep her in control when it comes to lithium, though, when she tries to use it. Please follow along with me onto the next slide about Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is an irreversible, progressive brain disorder that slowly destroys memory and thinking skills, and eventually the ability to carry out simpler tasks such as even eating, talking, or even breathing. Very small doses of tetrahydrocannabidiol, THC, a chemical found in marijuana, can slow the production of beta-amyloid proteins, thought to be the hallmark characteristic and key contributor to the progression of Alzheimer's. The study, published in 2014, is among others to support the effectiveness of THC in prohibiting the growth of toxic amyloid plaques, also found from Sawyer. Another study from the Salk Institute in La Jolla, California, has also found that THC and other compounds found in marijuana may reduce the amount of beta amyloid in the brain. Beta amyloid is a hallmark characteristic of Alzheimer's and is commonly thought to cause the degenerative disease, also from Sawyer. Today I've discussed the medical benefits of how it could help mental disorders such as anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, and Alzheimer's. Next, Rachel will discuss other medical benefits of legalizing marijuana.
Hello, my name is Rachel Negron, and I'm going to continue the discussion on the medical use of marijuana. The clinical application of marijuana and its byproducts is only just being explored and has had some amazing results in the treatment of symptoms for multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, and patients who have experienced traumatic brain injuries. The legalization of marijuana would allow further exploration of possible uses that could dramatically improve the lives of patients throughout the United States and the world. Please click to the slide discussing multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis, otherwise known as MS, is a debilitating disease associated with chronic symptoms to include muscle stiffness, spasms, pain, and insomnia. These symptoms can get so severe that individuals can no longer control bowel movements, walk, or even feed themselves. However, in 2016, the Epilepsy Foundation of Colorado published a report on the study of multiple sclerosis and the use of extract of cannabis. This study involved the use of oral cannabis extract and one group of individuals who would take that and another placebo group. 95% of the patients that were given the oral cannabis reported a relief from muscle stiffness that resulted in less pain, greater walking ability, and a positive psychological impact, which was discussed earlier by Siri. Please click to the next slide discussing epilepsy. Epilepsy is a seizure disorder in which nerve cell activity in the brain is disturbed. Individuals with this illness experience fatigue, fainting, and uncontrollable muscle spasms that can be very dangerous. The use of cannabis products to treat children has been a huge debate since the legalization of marijuana in various states such as Colorado. Cannabinoid oils have been shown to reduce the frequency and severity of seizures in patients suffering from epilepsy. A study conducted at New York University showed 47% of patients had a reduction in seizure frequency of 50% or more within 8 to 12 weeks of cannabinoid oil use. If you follow the link in the slide, you will be taken to a short news story about the use of cannabinoid oils that stopped debilitating epileptic seizures in one small child. Desperate parents across the country are now relocating to states that have legalized marijuana in order to reap the medical benefits of such a product and to relieve the suffering of their children. Please click to the next slide discussing traumatic brain injuries. Traumatic brain injuries, also known as TBIs, are characterized as a dysfunction in the brain, usually caused by blunt trauma to the head. The effects of a TBI may be immediate or delayed, and symptoms can range from mild to severe to include death. A study conducted by UCLA Medical Center focused on the use of cannabinoids to decrease the mortality rate of TBIs. Astoundingly, a comparison of 446 cases of TBIs showed that there was a 95% better survival rate for those who were administered cannabinoids as opposed to those who were not. Please click to the next slide. The legalization of marijuana would allow for more in-depth study and further understanding of the medical applications of cannabis and its products. If these products could be sold nationwide, it would encourage pharmaceuticals to invest more money in the research of what could be a miracle drug. Not only would this encourage further study, but it would provide families and patients with a product that could be regulated for quality and consistency, making it safer for those who so desperately need these medications. The positive economic impact of marijuana reaches beyond the benefits to the various pharmaceuticals and medical companies. We will now discuss these various advantages and opportunities that the legalization of marijuana would facilitate in regards to social benefits. Thank you.
Shifting gears here, let's talk about the social benefits of legalizing marijuana. Number one, legalizing marijuana would decrease overall crime rate. In fact, according to a statistic report done by DPA, the Drugs Policy Alliance, during the first 11 months of 2014, in one of the first states that legalized marijuana, Denver, has a 2.2% decrease in crime rate. And in the same years in 2014, there's also an 8.9% decrease in overall property rate. In doing so, it will weaken the illegal marijuana black market. It will decrease drug and gang-related violence by taking back the power of marijuana from drug cartel to the people, which will create more accountabilities. As a result, people will have more dispensaries to have more controlled distribution of medical marijuana in a much safer environment. Now, most people think that decriminalizing marijuana will have an increased usage among minors. However, according to 2012 National Survey of Drug Use and Health, when comparing two states that has different marijuana laws, such as California and South Dakota, it found that state with more relaxed provision does not have a significant increase of usage. In addition, all the money that can be earned from legalizing marijuana can be used to improve public school systems and infrastructure. The tax revenue can be used to help school teach minors about the benefits and consequences of marijuana. It will allow for people to have a maintained control usage to prevent overdosing. And speaking of the consequences of marijuana, a well-known side effect of marijuana is short-term memories. Our mind filters out what we need to retain in our active memories and what we need to know to maintain continuity of our memory. Hence, the short-term memory loss can have an evolutionary advantage by helping forget painful memories. It helps people to think more positive and focus on more activities that bring them happiness, such as food and shelter. It's also known that marijuana activates a pressure center that increase cerebral and sensory activities. It will allow for people to have a better experience for entertainment, and marijuana also brings people to a different perspective that allows them to think outside the box. People are more open to speak and think freely and openly, which allow for deeper conversation to bring society together. In addition, many musicians, directors, actors agree that while they're on marijuana, their creativity explodes and a lot of their ideas come from that stage. And anything that promotes a human ability to get along and communicate with one another is a positive thing for society. According to a quote by Clark and Merlin in 2013, it can be argued that due to ages, cannabis drugs have heightened the senses, soar human emotion, and communication across time and space, and create inspiration for inventor, artists, musicians, and writers. Hence, the psychoactive effects of marijuana create more independent thoughts and alter the human consciousness, which can lead to a cultural evolution. Now, marijuana also has an effect that increases free association of ideas and boosts intellectual creativities. So the ideas of solving problem is often connected to human progresses and human evolution. So with the ability to enhance creativities, leading to better problem-solving skills, the idea of marijuana should be highly regarded by society. So overall, I think marijuana would definitely has a positive impact in society.
Hi guys, my name is Jadita Lawson and I would like to talk to you about legalizing marijuana and the effect that it has on our economy. If you'll please follow along with me on slide 14 and 15, I would greatly appreciate it. Alright, let's begin. Marijuana. Marijuana is the most illicit drug used in America today. Legalizing it will help our economy drastically with 1. Increasing taxation, decreasing expenses of incarceration, and it also help us with less crime committed. Okay. Another way that legalizing marijuana will help our economy is also create many jobs, because having people go outside of our field and purchase marijuana is hurting our economy greatly. If we have workers that will grow it out and we sell it ourselves, that will also play a drastic factor on our economy. It will also increase, like I said before, jobs. And according to F. Hart in 2015, he stated that legalizing marijuana will lower crime rate and also increase job in our state. And about 4 states, Colorado, Washington, Oregon, Alaska, and they have legalized marijuana. And some might say it's all due to medical reasoning, but legalizing marijuana is also good in many other aspects. And according to Williams, Colorado sold about 996 million in 2015. They also net 135 million in taxation and licensing revenue, all just from selling marijuana. So you see why I say legalizing marijuana will help our economy drastically. Thank you for listening. Now I'd like to pass it along to Nisha for the rest of the presentation.
Flister estimates that a marijuana cigarette could cost as much as $8.60 per unit, while only costing $1.50 to produce. This is an incredible $7.10 profit margin. If legalized in a typical market, there would be an influx of retailers, which would in turn lower the price of marijuana and lower the profits. In an illegal market, this is completely different, however. No matter how many sellers there are in an illegal market, there will always be an extremely high profit margin due to the risk of incarceration. So how can the government capitalize on such high profit margins? It could continue to gain this kind of profit by adding a large sales tax to marijuana, which will transfer the profit of risk from the sellers to the government, according to Flister's research. This would produce similar outcomes as the taxation of alcohol after the prohibition. Some even say that 30 to 40% of the government's income comes from the taxation of alcohol because of its high demand. Shanahan explains that 2 policies were tested in Australia that can be used to demonstrate how legalizing marijuana can be economically beneficial to the government. They tested the policies by legalizing marijuana versus patrolling illegal usage. In a legalized society, consumers must have an official license and be over the age of 21 to use marijuana. It is illegal to operate a vehicle while under the influence. Marijuana would only be able to be used in restricted areas as well. Failure to adhere to these terms would lead to large fines or even imprisonment. Growers would also need permits. Marijuana would have to only be sold in cannabis-only retailers. These retailers would also need to clearly display the health warnings in each purchased unit. Failure to adhere to these would also lead to large fines. A specific board would set the price as well, which would take taxes into account. By patrolling illegal use, there is a diversion plan set in place. This plan explains that adults would receive 2 warnings for the possession of less than 15 grams of marijuana. Anything over this weight limit or continued offense would lead to imprisonment and require treatment. In a similar way, juveniles would first receive an informal warning, followed by a formal warning and a fine. Continued offense would also lead to imprisonment and treatment. According to Shanahan, through legalized policy, there are several ways of gaining profit. This is through the large fines for invalid licenses and the age and location restrictions. A large amount of the profit, however, would come from the preset retail price. Policies for patrolling illegal use have many more costs than benefits. Profits will continue to go towards various aspects of the policy, such as the prisons and treatment facilities, rather than the full benefits. In this way, we can see that legalizing marijuana has many cost benefits rather than setbacks. However, there are some repercussions that should be noted.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Cortesis, and I'm going to be talking about some of the possible negative outcomes that come from legalizing marijuana. When we think about legalizing any drug, we must consider addiction. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, people may mistakenly think that those who use a drug lack moral principles, willpower, and that they could stop their drug of choice simply by choosing to. In reality, drug addiction is a complex disease, and quitting usually takes more than good intentions or strong will. Addiction is a very terrible disease that affects an entire family. There are many reasons that some people become addicted and others do not. Some of these factors include biology, development, and environment. Many people also think that marijuana is not a drug that people become addicted to, but that is also not true. The NIDA research suggests that 30% of marijuana users may develop some degree of problem use, which then can lead to dependence and in severe cases take the form of addiction. Also shown in admission statistics to National Public Drug Treatment Centers, about 17% of people admitted seeking drug treatment were cannabis users. This suggests that addiction to marijuana is a bigger problem than most people considered. Addiction to marijuana can have numerous negative side effects. According to Cooks, cannabis use can lead to dependent syndrome with well-documented withdrawal symptoms including restlessness, insomnia, anxiety, aggression, anorexia, muscle tremor, and autonomic effects. Also, heavy long-term use can have effects on cognitive function and then lead to depression. In all Narcotic Anonymous and alcohol addiction programs, the link between certain drug usage leading to other drugs is discussed. That is why many people often call marijuana a gateway drug. What people do not realize is when someone has a disease of addiction, this causes them to need to abstain from all substances. Here's an excerpt from NA literature how it works. The only way to keep from returning to active addiction is not to take that first drug. If you're like us, you know that 1 is too many and 1,000 is never enough. We put great emphasis on this, for we know that when we use drugs in any form or substitute one from another, we release our addiction all over again. We are all people with a disease of addiction who must abstain from all drugs in order to recover. This means that although people consider marijuana a less threatening drug, it is still very much a drug for people suffering with addiction. This is a problem we have to be aware of and consider, but is it a reason not to legalize a drug? The majority of marijuana users will not become addicted, and as many of my teammates have shared, there are a plethora of benefits that would come with legalization. We also know that prohibition of certain drugs will not curtail drug addiction. We should start to look and treat marijuana like we do other legalized drugs. According to Dr. Jack E. Henningfield in an article for the New York Times, alcohol is one of the most highly addictive drugs in terms of dependence, withdrawal, intoxication, and tolerance, but it is still legal and used by millions of people. The focus then should be on education and prevention, becoming more aware and knowledgeable about the risks of addiction and how to combat them. Addiction education and prevention is needed for legal and illegal drugs across the board. Now I'm going to pass the presentation over to my classmate, Elizabeth Nunez, who is going to talk about the other possible negative repercussions. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth. Please turn to the slide titled Possible Negative Outcomes with the concentration on workplace safety. So, legalizing marijuana affects workplace safety and hiring. Business owners fear that legalizing marijuana will impact the workplace by not being able to find workers that can pass a drug test. Employers are also required to create a safe workplace for their employees. If workers are under the influence of marijuana, it could jeopardize safety in the workplace. Some people can perform well under the influence of marijuana, but to others, it could impair their judgment and actions. Employers must also make a choice to follow new state laws legalizing marijuana or to follow federal law, which holds the ban. Employers that receive federal funding can only make the choice to follow the federal law. Our rebuttal to this is that once marijuana is legalized, employers that do not have a no-drug policy would need to establish rules for their employees concerning how long they have to refrain from use before they come to work. For example, employers could have a rule that prohibits marijuana use within 12 hours of coming to work. New drug tests must be developed that can detect how much time has passed since a person has used marijuana. A person could smoke marijuana all weekend, come to work on Monday completely sober, but their drug test would be positive for drug use. In order to avoid the loss of competent workers in the workplace due to positive drug tests, the test would need to be able to detect how long it's been since the person has used marijuana. And employers that receive federal funding would have no choice but to maintain their no-drug policy. Please turn to the next slide. Legalization would increase the number of incidents where marijuana adversely interacts with other prescribed medication. Currently, there's no regulation, training, or effort to prevent this from happening. Adverse interactions with marijuana and other prescription drugs are well documented. There's decreased effectiveness with some medication and increased effectiveness with others. Pharmacists unknowingly prescribe medications to people that are using marijuana because people that use marijuana are not required to disclose that information. Dispensaries have no knowledge of the other prescriptions that people use or what interactions might occur. And most dispensaries do not have the training to assess drug interactions with marijuana. Our rebuttal to this is that once marijuana is legalized, an ongoing educational campaign must be set in place to educate marijuana users of the dangers of drug interaction with marijuana. Marijuana users must be legally obligated to disclose their use of marijuana to pharmacists and dispensaries. They have to let them know other medications that they're using. If they do not disclose this information, they are going to be held liable for any consequences of drug interactions. Dispensary owners and workers must be educated on what medications adversely interact with marijuana use and provide educational materials to their clients. Please turn to the next slide. Finally, adverse health effects of marijuana use are well documented. Legalization of marijuana will increase the number of users and consequently increase the number of people with marijuana-induced health problems. There's two types of health problems that people are affected with, so psychosocial outcomes and physical health outcomes. For psychosocial outcomes, regular marijuana users double their risk of experiencing psychotic symptoms and disorders, especially if they have a family history of psychotic disorders. Regular cannabis use that begins in adolescence appears to produce cognitive impairment. Some physical health outcomes. Regular cannabis smokers have a higher risk of developing chronic bronchitis, which could lead to COPD. Cannabis smoking by middle-aged adults probably increases their risk of myocardial infarction. Our rebuttal to this is that once marijuana is legalized, health campaigns can educate people on the health effects of smoking marijuana in the same way that alcohol and smoking campaigns currently do. Adults already make the decision to smoke cigarettes and to drink alcohol despite the health effects. and they'll do the same with recreational marijuana use. The campaign to keep adolescents off drugs will remain strong and probably get stronger once marijuana is legalized. Adolescents that intend to smoke marijuana will smoke marijuana whether it's legal or not. So this concludes our brief, and now I'll pass it over to Jedediah with our conclusion. Thank you.
Hi guys, Jadida Lesson here again, and we have finally reached the point where we have to conclude this presentation. So if you'll please follow along with me on slides 25 to 26, and we'll get it right along. Okay, so to conclude or summarize this presentation, legalizing marijuana, it touches various aspects of our lives in terms of medical field, economy, social benefits, and the negative outcomes of it. Many people have found that legalizing marijuana is a big help when it comes to medical field. It helps with medical pains such as cancer, long-term diseases, glaucoma. Legalizing it will also help with our economy, like taxation of marijuana, decreasing the causes of incarceration, and also increasing job offerings. Legalizing it will also be great on our social benefits. It will impact our society in terms of tax revenue. That tax revenue can be used and improve our public school and our public transportation, such as roads. Like anything good, there's always like a negative outcome out of it. Business owners fear that legalizing marijuana will impact the workplace. Legalizing it will increase the number of incidents and various stuff. So to conclude this, marijuana is a great benefactor in our economy. Many use it for the good and many use it for the bad. So it all depends on how you choose to use it. But overall, we feel like it can help us tremendously in today's society. Thank you. And if you'll follow the rest of the slides 27 and 28, those are our references. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye. That's it.